Imagine a new kind of investing, a potentially life-changing way to invest that honors biblical principles, the kind of principles that you and I grew up with. Since 1994, Timothy Plan has made biblically responsible investing possible, offering mutual funds and ETFs that are filtered for biblical principles. Don't compromise your values. Invest with Timothy Plan. Ask your financial advisor or call Timothy Plan at 1-800-TIM-PLAN. Again, that's 1-800-846-7526 and discover what it means to be a biblically responsible investor. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. Before investing, carefully consider a fund's investment objective, risks, charges, and expenses contained in the prospectus available at timothyplan.com. Read carefully before investing. Mutual funds distributed by Timothy Partners Ltd. and ETFs distributed by Foreside Fund Services LLC. As a paid testimonial, there is no guarantee of future performance and each experience will differ.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Fire! Pursuing truth. Torching idols, rebelling against the world. This is the HECKPHIRE Podcast.
Well, hello, welcome to our third week here of the HECKPHIRE Podcast. At some point in time, I'm going to quit acknowledging what week it is, but it's still fresh, it's still new. I still get into the intro song, still love it, and those of you that watch, I love when it goes from the dark to the white and it pops. And those of you that don't watch it on the youtube.com, you're not going to have any idea what I'm talking about. You're just downloading the podcast and no idea. You just got to visualize it in your mind, the sweet logo that's right there on the decal, which, by the way, thanks for the responses of folks, and they were primarily the paid subscribers, because I don't think I mentioned this. In fact, I think they were all paid subscribers. I don't think I mentioned this on the main podcast last week. I think it was just in the after hours section, but I'm thinking about selling these puppies. Yeah, I mean, I could get a pretty penny for those guys. That little circular decals you could put on your laptop, you could put on your sunglasses, you could put on your car. I mean, nobody's going to see it on your car if you put it on your bumper. They're going to have to actually have rear-ended you, and you're standing there waiting for the cops, and they look down and they see it. That's about the only way that's going to happen if you put it on your car. So anyway, look. Full podcast today. I'm going to let you know right now, for those of you who are paid subscribers, what's coming to you this evening. What's coming to you as you head into the weekend. You're easing into it. It's Friday night. You're laying in bed. Why not check out a little after hours with me? So what's coming in the after hours? Me, of all people, this guy gets attacked by the Southern Poverty Law Center, the SPLC. Yeah. I mean, they've not liked me before, but this one was outrageous. Yes, I was one of the writers for Not the Bee that was included in a hit piece that the SPLC, which oddly enough, I think most sane people recognize that the SPLC is like the biggest hate group in America. I mean, they are. They're notorious, sparking attempted mass murder at the Family Research Council. Yes, that SPLC. So they launched a broadside. Well, what was supposed to be a broadside, it was actually and I want to say this with all due respect, it was a pretty boring article. And this is supposed to be a salacious hit piece, and it's just kind of a yawn. But anyway, so they go after me in a paragraph. I'll have to share with you what they said about me and offer my response. We'll do that in the second half. Also, a great series of 5 questions. I had a hard time picking out the Friday 5 that I wanted, but we'll get into that in the after hours section this evening. Those of you who are paid subscribers, those of you who are just tuned into the HECKPHIRE Podcast, great to have you. We got a lot that I want to get to today, and I bumped something up to the top that I wasn't going to talk about, and yet I wrote an article about it tonight because it was on my mind because of something that I saw, and so I'm not sure if and when Not the Bee, I think they will. I'm not sure when Not the Bee is going to run this column, but this was something that I got pretty fired up about because seeing a lot of people, a lot of folks online and on the news, on the cable networks, Congress shouldn't be talking about bathroom bills. If you don't know what's happened, okay, let me back up. if you don't know what's happened, the first transgender representative has been elected to the House. I'm not sure the name, and I'm not sure from where. I should, but I didn't look it up. It's whatever. It's a dude that thinks that he is a woman and is living his life as a woman and got elected as a woman. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that the individual has officially changed their name. So they actually have legally a woman's name now. Okay, so anyway, a Republican representative, Nancy Mace is her name, she filed a bill that all Capitol Hill bathrooms, you have to go to the bathroom that is correlates to your sex. Okay, if you got male parts, you go to the male bathroom. You got female parts, you go to the female bathroom. Okay, like the poo-poo has hit the fan. The excrement got thrown into the fan. That was the sound. What you just heard, that was the sound of excrement hitting the fan. I'll do it again. Just like that. So anyway, of course, the media is chasing down Nancy Mace and demanding that she, I thought the Speaker of the House, Johnson, I thought he said we're going to show dignity to all people. And Nancy Mace has said, yes, dignity to women by not making them share their private spaces with biological men. And one of the things, this is why I bumped this to the top, one of the things that I've seen a lot of, it's Nancy Mace, you need to answer for this. Why are you making a deal out of this? Nancy Mace, we've got more important things to be talking about, and that's it. Yes, 100%. I 100% agree, wholeheartedly agree, without hesitation, without reservation, that with all of the country's problems, and we've got a lot, we had a lot following the pandemic, following the COVID mess, where we shut down the economy for what ended up being virtually no reason. A lot of economic mess that came from that. But certainly the last 4 years, the policies have not helped us recover from that. So with all of the economic problems, the fiscal problems, the strategic problems in the world, I mean, we got issues out there. And everything else, the last thing that should be taking up the time and the attention of our lawmakers in D.C., 100% I agree, they should not be fighting over biological men using women's restrooms. But listen, and this is important, because you're not hearing this, and I don't know that you will hear this. I mean, you'll hear it some from conservative media, but apart from a biblical worldview, apart from a Christian understanding of reality, you don't really hear this kind of stuff. But it is a fool who blames Representative Nancy Mace, who filed the bill to bar the activity of men in women's restrooms. It's a fool who blames Nancy Mace for making this an issue. The hysteria around this issue right now, which, if I'm not mistaken, I believe this evening I saw that the representative who claims to be a woman, who is a man, claims to be a woman, that representative has said they'll just use the male restrooms because they want to go to work for the American people. And so it worked out well. It gave that individual a chance to act like they care about the important stuff. But that is it's a perfect example of the strategy that secular progressives have utilized in their culture warring over the last several decades. They attempt, this is how it always works. Secular progressives will attempt to normalize a behavior or a practice that violates cultural standards or cultural patterns or cultural customs, tradition. Okay, everybody will be doing something some way, and it'll be secular progressives that come in and they will try to normalize something that has been abnormal and is against the grain of what society does, cultural norms. They will attack well-established norms of Western society. And then, after they have attacked those norms, when opposition rises up to stop their attack on those norms, to defend the norms, to defend the status quo and what we've been doing, then the people who have attacked the status quo and have created the issue, they then ridicule and disparage those dissenting voices, the people trying to stop them. They accuse them of being culture warriors. You're trying to legislate morality. It was the progressives that attacked the law that restricted or outlawed abortion in all 50 states. Go back to 1972, 73. 73 was Roe versus Wade. And in the years leading up to it, progressives, the state laws in 50 out of 50 states had either banned the practice of abortion or greatly restricted it and regulated it at the state level. Okay, that's the way things were. And then here comes secular progressives, and they attack those laws, and they overturn all of those laws with one court ruling. They were the warriors attacking cultural ideals. Then after that, it was progressives that attacked sodomy laws and attacked statutes that accurately reflected marriage as an institution comprised of one man and one woman. And that wasn't something new that conservatives or Christians just came up with to implement in the United States. That had been the way that it was for 2,000 years. But then here comes secular progressives attacking that. They were the warriors that were attacking cultural ideals. Who's waging culture war? Not the people that rose up and said, whoa, I don't think we want to do this. Oh, you culture warrior? No, you're the culture warriors. You're the ones that have attacked this. We can push forward from there. It was secular progressives that invented an entire notion of gender identity that had never existed before. They were the ones that started pretending that gender identity was somehow a scientific term that was distinct and separate from biological sex. Now, do I understand now that in science textbooks and in classes and lecture halls and colleges that it's now a thing? Well, yeah, they've written it into the books. But prior to the secular progressives inventing this, it wasn't a thing. They were the warriors that were attacking cultural ideals. And where are we now? It was secular progressives that started pretending that men who put on dresses can menstruate, can have children, can chest feed. They invented that term. They are the warriors attacking cultural ideals. If anything, here's where I would say, if anything, conservative, common sense Americans, Christians, we've been pretty hesitant to respond to the left's moral crusades. And I think one of the reasons is because take something like the idea that men can menstruate and that men can get pregnant. I think most sane people thought, well, there's no way the general population is going to go along with this. They're just going to dismiss this without incident. But that reluctance to go on the offensive and strangle these radical bad policies in their cradle and just eliminate the problem before it ever starts, the fact that conservatives and Christians and common sense Americans together haven't done that, that's one of the primary reasons that we now have to, back to where we started, why we now have to waste time passing bills to keep men masquerading as women out of women's bathrooms. Every single person with a functioning, grounded moral compass knows that Nancy Mace is right. That people with male genitalia do not belong in women's locker rooms. They don't belong in women's dressing rooms. They don't belong in women's bathrooms. That isn't offensive. That isn't mistreating anybody. That's not hateful. It's both a modesty and a safety issue for women. You can look at the statistics. They bear them out. The sociological data bears it out. It's a modesty issue, yes, but it's also a safety issue for women. Those who are pushing to permit this practice, they aren't signaling respect. They're not offering dignity. They are willfully endangering women, and they ought to be ashamed of themselves. I want you to imagine being, for a second, Democrat Representative Dean Phillips of Minnesota. Before his transgender colleague announced that he was going to be using men's restrooms instead of women's restrooms while on Capitol Hill, which again just happened, Dean Phillips, the progressive lawmaker, goes all in on the left's culture war offensive and attacked Nancy Mace online. Let me read this to you. This is what he said. He quote tweets the Hill story, Nancy Mace introduces bill to bar trans women from Capitol restrooms. And Dean Phillips responds and says, pathetic. What are you scared of, Nancy? All right, imagine being Dean Phillips. Calls Nancy Mace's bill to keep men, biological men, out of women's restrooms, out of her restrooms, calls her pathetic, and says, "What are you scared of, Nancy?" Representative Nancy Mace was raped. She's a rape survivor. She was sexually assaulted by a man. Now, I'm not a genius, but I'm guessing that's what she is scared of, Mr. Phillips. I want you to stop and think about this, because I know that it is typically secular progressives that love to tout that they are on the side of women and women's rights. I hope you are, if that's where you align yourself. And so if you are, I want you to think this through. A male sitting member of Congress just taunted his rape-surviving female colleague who doesn't want to pull her pants down in the presence of a biological male, taunted her, "What are you scared of?" I want to say that again. And you tell me, I don't care Republican, Democrat. I don't care conservative, liberal. Just be a human being for a second. Be on the side of women's rights. Be on the side of the dignity of women. A man, sitting member of Congress, taunts a rape survivor because she doesn't want to pull her pants down in the presence of a biological male. She is a rape survivor. She doesn't want to pull her pants down in front of a biological male. And this male sitting member of Congress taunts her? Pathetic. What are you scared of? I mean, a respectable media would be relentless in holding him accountable for that kind of an offense. That's where I am in all of this, and it makes me livid. It has nothing to do with the compassion that I feel for someone who obviously has either gender dysphoria or has some sort of confusion, whether it's mental illness or it's something else. They have some sort of confusion and dysphoria about their nature and what they are, which I think is only fueled and confused further by the insanity that we embrace in our culture. Satan has always been at war against God's moral order. He's at war against God's reality. And so it's not surprising at all that a culture that has become increasingly godless, you find people who are struggling and the culture tells them to embrace the confusion. It would not be in any way, shape, or form compassionate for us to take someone who is anorexic, and we know that they are not fat. They believe that they are fat. They really believe that to be the case. No one would say it is compassion to tell them and to facilitate their delusion and say, yeah, you are overweight. No, they don't need affirmation of their delusion. So this is born of a place that is extraordinary compassion for people who are confused. But that's my whole point in all of this. We have abandoned rationality and we have abandoned compassion, and we have done so at the behest of culture warriors. Not on the right. Secular progressive culture warriors. What has happened to our cultural expectation that men are to respect and to honor and, dare I say it, to seek to protect women? Are we now as a culture going to say that we're too enlightened or we're too evolved or we're too educated for that kind of a concept? You can find another E word and throw it in there. Is that where we are? We're too enlightened. Apparently so. Because even on the so-called political right, men have been cowering at the prospect of having to stand up for women. It's stunning to me to see it. Republican Representative Tom Cole, I believe he's from Oklahoma. He heads up the House Appropriations Committee. He ran away from questions about this issue. He was asked, what do you think about Nancy Mace's bill? He runs away from it. Okay, again, he's not taunting this rape surviving member, but this is one of his colleagues who has filed this bill saying, I would like to not have to pull my pants down in front of a biological male. And Tom Cole says, I don't want to get involved. This is what he said, quote, I'm trying to avoid the great bathroom debate. And look, I get it. That's something that I would be tempted to say as well, in the sense that I don't want to have to deal with this issue. It's silly. It's absurd that we are dealing with this issue. It would be nice to avoid it because it's really dumb. Men and women should be using separate bathrooms, and that should not be controversial. It isn't controversial. But the problem is that the secular progressive culture warriors won't let us avoid it. They're the ones that are pushing it. Progressive secularists are determined to make this an issue that we have to take time to address. Not Nancy Mace. I know she is the one that's being put on the spot and forced to answer. And now that the transgender member of Congress has come out and said that they'll use male bathrooms, they're of course going to be applauded for, putting the needs of the American people first, blah, blah. And Nancy Mace is going to be regarded as the one that created a huge issue. She was merely responding, and responding appropriately and responding morally, to the insulting expectations being demanded of her and being demanded of all women by a bunch of rudderless moralists on the left, most of whom are men who remain stubbornly intent on imposing their preferred values on all of us. Does that sound? Because that's what I've heard for 20 years or maybe 30 years of being politically aware. It's that those on the right are the moralists that are trying to advance and legislate a sense of morality and impose their values on everybody else. Man, it's the polar opposite going on right here. A bunch of moralists on the left that have their own new brand of morality, a bunch of culture warriors, most of whom are men, are stubbornly intent on imposing these preferred values that they have on all the rest of us. And in this case, on women, even though it endangers them or puts them in awkward positions. The radicals on the secular progressive side won't be ignored, and so I think they have to be defeated. And I don't think anybody should take a back seat on this. The fact that we have taken a back seat on this is one of the reasons why we're now at the place where we are. And it's not a good place. It's not a healthy place. That was not the way that I intended to start the podcast today. I'll tell you what I wanted to start talking about was, and I get it. I understand everybody right now. If you oppose Joe Biden and you were supportive of Donald Trump, it doesn't seem to matter to a great number of Trump loyalists. It doesn't seem to matter what that person has always been or always believed or what they think. Well, they're great. Greatest thing I've ever seen. Mike Pence came out in opposition, former Vice President Mike Pence came out in opposition to RFK being made the HHS secretary. It's HHS, right? That's what he was nominated to. Yeah, Health and Human Services, right. And Eric Metaxas, who is a Christian activist on the right that I used to look up to, and he still has done some good stuff. He basically says nobody cares about Mike Pence. Mike Pence is I don't remember the terminology that he used, so I don't want to put words in his mouth, but just blows him off and kind of mocks him. In other words, because RFK opposed Joe Biden and then joined with Donald Trump, then he must be the right person to lead this position. Do we have any desire anymore to actually judge a person on the content of their character and the content of their policies and positions and all of that? Or are we just going to say, well, this person supports Donald Trump, so they must be great? Because RFK, he has a worldview that is very, very similar to the people that I was just talking about who are culture warriors on the left. And for the life of me, I can't figure out why everyone on the right, many Christian activists included, are saying, oh, no, he's going to be great. He's going to be dynamite. He's going to get in there. You do realize that this is a radical pro-abortion, RFK, radical pro-abortion, radical rabid environmentalist. In fact, I'm not sure if you knew this or not, Barack Obama considered making this guy, RFK, the director of Environmental Protection Agency. I mean, he's where Al Gore is on environmental policy, and yet we think, oh no, we got to put him in charge. Oh, because he likes Donald Trump. What? Some of the stuff on here, and I don't have time to get into all of it, but he's been caught lying multiple times about vaccines and medicines and all sorts of things. But the character issue, I'm just going to read this to you. This comes from my one of my good friends who did a little research on this. And I don't know if they'd be okay with me saying their name. You would probably know the name. Kennedy is not just a progressive pro-abortionist. He's also not a good person. His sexual escapades are widely attributed to his wife's. Sorry, nope, I'm not reading that right. His sexual escapades is what many people attribute to his wife's breakdown and ultimately her suicide. That's his second wife. She hung herself. Before she hung herself, she found his journal documenting his sexual escapades with 37 women in the course of their marriage. He had a reputation of sending nude pictures of his sexual conquests to friends. Because the divorce, though filed, had not been finalized before her suicide, Kennedy had a judge give him control of her remains over the objection of her siblings. Richardson, that was his wife's name, 52, committed suicide by hanging herself in an outbuilding on the couple's Bedford estate. Kennedy's cheating had become a huge issue in the marriage. Richardson told a friend that her husband noted the names of his romantic conquests on the pages in the back of his journal under the pre-printed heading, Cash Accounts. The journal begins with word that Richardson is pregnant with the couple's fourth child. And by the way, RFK's sexual indiscretions, they were brought up again in an issue that happened on the campaign trail this year. Does character not matter anymore? Oh, but RFK's got these positions that you don't think there's another person out there that has those positions that doesn't simultaneously believe in the radical pro-abortion and radical environmentalist position, that has a worldview that is incompatible with a lot of things that Christians and conservatives believe? This idea, I mean, from gun control to abortion to environmentalism, you just go down the list. But we're going to ignore that. And why are we going to ignore that? Because someone who agrees with us on one thing, well, they must agree with us on everything. And so now they're going to be a hero. I'm going to write a piece about this for Not the Bee next week sometime. But it's not just him. It's Tulsi Gabbard, too. I mean, some of the stuff that Tulsi Gabbard has said, the position she's taken on Iran, whatever you want to say, extremely concerning, and she's not disavowed any of it, and she's going to become the director of national intelligence. I get it. I understand. Man, Trump won. That's going to be great. No, not necessarily. Don't just assume that it's going to be great. And one of the things that you should be on guard about, especially as a believer, if you care about this kind of stuff and you care about people, are the kind of people that he's surrounding himself with. But anyway, that I wanted to spend more time on that, but that whole Nancy Mace thing has really got me hot under the collar. We don't care about women anymore. We don't care about truth anymore. I shouldn't say we. A lot of people don't, and they need to. We need to make that appeal. All right, I'd be interested. Oh, I should say one good thing, though, that I am excited about, that whole DOGE, the Department of Governmental, what are they calling it? Government Efficiency. The one that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are going to be involved in, where they're just going to start cutting the bureaucracy. Man, if they do that and they involve Ron Paul and Rand Paul and those guys, some libertarians, and I'm talking about eliminating the bureaucracy here, that gets me excited, because there's a lot of people on the public dole in D.C. that don't need to be. So I'm not suggesting to you that I don't have some sense of excitement about positive changes that could happen. But I don't think we just assume, I know we don't just assume, that all good things are going to happen because it's Donald Trump and not Kamala Harris. I don't think that's a good approach for anyone. All right, so that's it. That's all the time we got on this edition of the HECKPHIRE podcast. Interested in your thoughts, you can fire them my way. peterheck.com, peterheck.com. Where am I wrong on these things? Where am I wrong on RFK? Where am I wrong? I only mentioned Tulsi Gabbard quickly. Where am I wrong on the bathroom issue? What am I not seeing? Am I lacking in compassion somehow? Because I'll tell you, frankly, I find people on the other side lacking in compassion. And I'm not saying that you have to be rude. One of the things that I liked about what Nancy Mace did was we need to accommodate this person as best we can with a unisex bathroom. But you don't put other people in danger, or if you're fearful of making this one representative feel uncomfortable, okay, that's thoughtful. But you don't fix that by making a bunch of other people uncomfortable. That doesn't make a lot of sense. And so I would challenge anybody that says, oh, well, that's hate. No, it's not. How in any way, shape, or form is it hatred to say, we don't want this person to be uncomfortable, but we don't want to make all of these people uncomfortable by warring against reality and certainly making things uncomfortable for a rape survivor and attacking her for being uncomfortable with a male in her bathroom. We've gone nuts in some ways. peterheck.com is the email address. Those of you who are paid subscribers, buckle up, because coming at you just a few hours from now is going to be your after hours, and we are going to dig into the Friday Five as well as a hit piece on the place where I write and a paragraph in there attacking me. Me. Who could think of such a thing? Well, a couple people for SPLC. We'll do that in the After Hours edition. The rest of you, I'll see you next week for some more HECKPHIRE. Bye-bye. The HECKPHIRE only burns because of loyal friends and supporters of this ministry. All of these are people and groups that I know personally and trust implicitly. I can't say enough good things about my friend Jonathan at Hartman Family Farms, about my bank, First Farmers Bank and Trust, my lawn care team at True Land Equipment, my insurance company at Norris Insurance, the place where I buy and lease all of my vehicles, McGonigal GM Buick. And main attraction hair, nobody else touches this head. Stevens Machine, my mechanic at Terrell's Auto Service, my longtime realtor, the Wyman Group. And certainly so much can be said for those fighting for family values in the public square, like the Indiana Family Institute and Indiana Right to Life. Please support them all and thank them.